This presentation is going to show you how to write a professional business letter. The first section is going to discuss the different parts of a letter. In a letter, we have 6 different parts. First is the date, then the mailing address, the salutation comes next, the body, the complimentary close, and then the signature at the very end. Here's an example of a business letter. It starts off with the date at the top, followed by the mailing address, then the salutation or the greeting, then the body of the letter, closing with a complimentary close, the author's signature, and we're going to go through each one of these separately. So the date starts 2 inches down. Your document will have a 1-inch margin at the top, and then you need to start down 1 inch from there. It's usually about 5 enters, and you need to spell out the date completely, like January 28th, 2008 instead of 1-2808. The next section is the mailing address. Right here is the mailing address. You have the name of the recipient on the first line, their address on the second line, and then the city, state, and zip on the third line. The salutation comes next. Salutation comes from the word salud, which is a greeting. In a business letter, you're always going to start with dear. Dear Mr., dear Mrs., dear Miss, dear Ms. We're not going to use a comma after our greeting. And if you don't know the name of a person, for example, if you're writing a complaint letter and you're not sure who the letter is going to go to, you're going to put to whom it may concern. Here's the body of the letter. This just contains what you want to talk about. Pretty basic. Each paragraph is going to be separated by a line, and make sure that you're not going to tab in. Every line in each paragraph is lined up to the left margin, and it's usually 3 paragraphs long, sometimes more, sometimes less, but usually about 3. The next is the complimentary close. It's usually something like yours truly, sincerely, sincerely yours. It's to end your letter in a professional way. After the closing, you have your signature. In this example, Mary S. Whitmore right here is a handwritten signature. But below that, you're going to have a typewritten name of the person with their title below it. So we'll get into a little bit more of that later. If you don't have a title of a company, that's okay. It can just end with the person's name. So here's some special cases that happen in some business letters. Not all letters have them. So the first one is a subject line. The subject line comes after the greeting. So imagine that you're addressing somebody and you say, "Hi, Mrs. Monroe, I want to talk to you about this." Right here is where you're going to put your subject line. It comes right after the greeting. You're going to address the person first and then tell them what your letter is about. It's going to be in all capital letters, and it's going to be double spaced above and below. The other special case is an enclosure. You would put this at the end of your business letter if you're including a brochure, a map, tickets. If something is enclosed in your letter, you want to make sure that your recipient knows that and to look for it. The other one is initials. You have initials at the bottom of a letter when somebody besides the author of the letter types it. For example, if a president of a company asked his secretary to type up a letter for him, she would type it up, end it with his name as who the letter is from, and then put her initials here to represent that she is the one who typed the letter. The next part is spacing. Spacing is really important in business letters, and I'm going to show you what we're working with here. So you're going to remember to start 2 inches down, which is usually 5 enters when you start your letter. Next thing to remember is that there are only 2 places where there's a QS, or quadruple space. That means you're going to enter four times, after the date and after the complimentary close. So only 2 places. Then all other spaces are going to have a double space, which means you enter twice, or a DS. And only 1 place is there going to be a single space, and that's right here. If there's a title and a company, you're going to put that right under the author's name. So here's some special cases in spacing. When there's a subject line, you're going to double space before and after, and then if you have initials or an enclosure, you're going to make sure you double space above and below each of those as well. The last section is letter formatting and punctuation. This is really important for the grading aspect, so I will show you each one of these. First type of business letter is a block letter. That means that everything on the left is lined up to the left margin. Most letters are written this way, and as you can see, there's no tabs on the beginning of each of the paragraphs. Everything is lined up exactly on the left. Next one is a modified block. In a modified block, the complimentary close, the yours truly, and the signature, Mary S. Whitmore, is tabbed to the center. It's not going to be centered. If we center it, it's not going to be lined up with each other here. We want it to be lined up, so you need to tab it to the center. Notice also that the initials, and if you have an enclosure, would stay on the left. The only thing to tab to the center is the closing, the complimentary closing, and the signature. With punctuation, there's two different types. We have open punctuation and mixed punctuation. In mixed punctuation, we have a colon after the salutation, and then there's a comma after the closing. Open really means that none. That means that there's no punctuation after the greeting or the closing, so you're going to leave it blank. So in mixed, we have a colon, and after the closing we have a comma, and then in open there's no punctuation. Okay, I'm going to show you an example. We're going to walk through one together. The first thing we're going to do when we open up a blank document is to change our line spacing to remove space after the paragraph. If we don't click that button, what would happen is when we start typing and I hit enter, it gives me a space in between, and I don't want that space there. I want everything to be really tight and give me single spacing. So I'm going to take this off, and before I type anything, I'm going to come to the home ribbon, click on line spacing, and say remove space after the paragraph. The next thing I want to do is turn on this symbol right here. It's a show hide reveal codes. It kind of helps you along with your spacing so you can see exactly what you're doing. It doesn't print, and it's just to show you the clicks and the moves that you make that are not visible on your document. So it kind of helps out a little bit. Okay, so we're starting our document. We're ready to go. We need to start with a date. First of all, we're going to tab or enter down 5 times to get our 2 inches, and we're going to type out our date completely. That's 13 here. Then I'm going to enter a quadruple space, which means I enter 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes people get confused and forget to count this one right here. You need to make sure you count this one at the very end. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and now my cursor is here ready to go. The next section is the address line, and I'm just going to make up this letter as we go. So it's to Walmart, 1234 South Main in Gooding, Hawaii. We'll make it fun. 87654. Zip code has 5 numbers, and I'm going to double space after the address block. The next thing comes the salutation. So it always starts with dear. We're going to make it up Mr. Brown. If I was going to do mixed punctuation, I want to make sure to do a colon here, and then I'm going to double space. And I have saved a body before, so I'm going to put that in really quick. And I'm down here at the end. If you notice, my letter is all left aligned. There's no indentations anywhere, no tabs, and there's a blank line between each paragraph. So at the end of the body, I'm going to double space and put my complimentary close. And I'll do sincerely here. And since we're doing mixed punctuation, I'm going to put a comma at the end. I did a colon at the greeting and a comma at the closing. And after the closing, I'm going to enter a quadruple space. 1, 2, 3, 4, and put my name here. Now, if I was not typing this, I would put my initials, double space, and then put my initials from the person who typed it, because it's not my letter, I just am the one who typed it. But let's pretend I'm enclosing something, so we'll put an enclosure here. Okay, so the only difference between a modified block and a block letter would be is if I took my complementary close and my signature line and tabbed them to the center. This would make this letter a modified block. The only difference is I moved the complementary close and the signature to the center. Now if I was going to make it open punctuation instead of mixed punctuation, the only thing I would do here is take the punctuation off the greeting and off the closing. Oops, I took the wrong one there. So now I have a modified block letter with open punctuation. That's the only difference.